This is SoulCharge, the podcast for women leaders to take the highest level of ownership of their power to create results now. I'm your host, Stacy B. Let's dive in. Hello, podcast listeners. I am joined today by a very special guest. Elizabeth is our program coordinator and coach at SoulCharge, and we are really looking forward to bringing a different dynamic to you in this conversation today about some trends that we've been seeing as we've been speaking to clients and potential clients along the way. And today we're diving into the hidden addiction that's really going to blow your mind, that's keeping you in not just low standards, but struggle and bottlenecking your growth. But before we dive in, I'd love to hand the mic over to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, share with us a little bit about you and why you're excited to have this conversation today.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Being a part of the team, I've listened to the podcast and I've just been excited to jump on at some point. I live out in Sedona, and I've been working with clients, with myself, with my journey, my own stories, my own growth for over a decade. And I've really seen so many different ways that we can show up and completely shift our life. And being a part of SoulCharge and a coach here now has just up-leveled my whole approach to how I live my life, how I work with clients, because we just get right to it. And it's something I love being a part of this team. And I'm just so excited to be here and ready to dive into this. This topic today is so juicy.
It's so good.
Feeling good. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So Elizabeth has this incredible expertise in helping our clients really activate their embodiment into the next level. And Elizabeth and I kind of have a funny story where we met, a few years ago, a couple years ago at least, through a mutual friend in Sedona. And I always kind of felt like I had my eye on her. I'm like, there's just something drawing me in, some connection that we have. And it was in January this year that we saw each other again. And I just came at her like a spider monkey, as I usually do with people, and I said, you're supposed to work with me in SoulCharge. And here we are. And she's just been such an incredible asset and takes such a great and unique approach with the clients, both using her very connected intuition and all of her expertise. So I'm so excited to have you on the pod today too. So let's get right to it.
Let's do it.
So we were actually in a conversation with someone the other day, and what was interesting is we had another conversation with another woman and the same topic came up. And so we were like, we need to take this to the podcast, because if two women in less than 48 hours are coming into our world thinking and talking about this, it's on our minds, it's happening, it's present for more than just two women. And what was brought up in that conversation was this conversation around control. Elizabeth, do you want to kind of take your spin on what was talked about and your perspective on it?
Yeah. So talking about control and really being the one to take charge and do everything, because when we're in that position, we feel the most powerful, or we think we feel the most powerful when we are like, I'm doing everything at work. That's awesome. That works. I'm going to go home and I'm going to do everything as well, because I know how it gets done. And if I do it the way it needs to get done, there's no cleanup. There's no like having to bang my head up against the wall. And it feels really good and really safe, because we know it's happening and we're the one who's done it, and don't need to think like, did they do it right? Or is there something I have to go in and fix? It's really just, it's this experience where we're looking at something and it's just, we think it's one way, but we have no idea what's actually really going on. And we're using control as a scapegoat.
Yeah, totally. Well, and it's so funny because so many women want things done a certain way and want things done to this elevated standard. And they don't realize that part of what's happening is they're slowing down the process of how the thing could get done because they have to do it all. But in the process of that, they're burning out, they're full of resentment. And at the end of the day, it just feels like they're so alone. And so a lot of women are out there doing all of the things, getting all of the accolades, feeling all of the achievement and, the adoration from others of how much they get done in a day and how do you do it all? But really what's driving that is control. And what's so interesting and why this impacts standards is because every time that controlling something is more important to us than getting it done, what we're actually going to bat for is our standards are so low that we're willing to self-sacrifice to get something done.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way to look at it too, because we're so used to thinking like, wow, I'm so amazing. I'm doing everything. Look at how good I am at doing it. And like it is the reward for being the one who's like, she's always doing it. She's showing up. She's getting everything done. Look at her go. But underneath that, it's like someone who's like suffering, like
Yes.
actually really suffering. And but then it's also there's like a fear of like, well, I can't let go because I have to do it and I've set my life up this way.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you just hit on something, right? It's like the fear. And so the fear is driving the desire to control. And because that's what's happening, the thing in which you're working towards all has an essence of being wrapped and infused with fear and control because that's where you're coming from. And that's the low standard that we want to shine a light on for you today is that it isn't a badge of honor anymore to do it all. It's actually an obsession with control and it's preserving just how and not just preserving but shining a light on just how low your standard is because I think that part of why we don't let go of things is because we're committed to excellence or it has to be done just right. But really what we are keeping alive is fear. We're keeping alive the control and we're keeping alive not trusting ourselves or others, which is full of a really low standard. And that's what is actually happening when we are so committed to doing it all.
And then also like like how do you feel on the other side of doing all of that? Like you're exhausted, you're frustrated that nobody can do it. You're completely alone.
Yes. Yeah.
People are looking at you and saying, "Good job." And you're like, "Good job." Like
Yeah.
"Thank you, but I'm also like I'm alone and I'm burnt out and I don't know what to do and I don't know how to get out of this," because then we go back to that fear of, well, nobody else knows how to do it the best how I can. Like
Right.
nobody can do it better than me.
Yes.
And it's so we have to ask ourselves like we can talk about this all day long, but how do we shift that? How do we start stepping out of that dynamic to create a different way of being?
Yes.
Because it's like identifying it is the first step, which I feel like we're doing a really good job at because so many women, they are so rewarded for doing a great job, and then they also then go maybe outside of their career into their regular life, and they're like, "Okay, well, I gotta keep going here and do this here," and then everybody in around them is like, "Well, I don't really know how to help you."
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think that's such a beautiful segue into the question that I think a lot of our listeners have, which is like, yeah, I know that I'm doing that. I see that I'm doing that. How do I stop? I swear that is like the classic response from our clients when we hit home something. The immediate next question is, how do I change? How do I take action? And I think the first thing is around support. And I'm going to offer the question that I offer the woman that we were speaking to the other day, which is, make a list of the things where you feel like you're really struggling right now. It could be just because it's a lot's on your plate. It could be you feel burnt out in a certain category of your life, or it feels like there's something going on that feels out of control. The first thing to do is do a brain dump, write those things down. And then in the column next to it, ask yourself, what support do I need here? Or what can I delegate here? Because it really boils down to, first and foremost, can you enlist support around these things that don't bring you joy and also that are just stacking up and you're carrying the burden on unnecessarily? And I'd love to share actually the story that we've experienced within the team as it relates to social media. So Elizabeth and Tasha, our social media strategists, they love social media. They love the creativity of it. They love the creation of it. Anything social media, like they just light up about it. Myself, on the other hand, that's not where I light up. I light up on the bigger picture, how we're getting to the moon, like, all of that part of it, right? Social media is not in my brain at all. And I have for quite some time been over sort of in the corner going, we got this. I'm going to change. I'm going to be different. I'm going to figure out the joy. And I came to a place where I was like, where is my energy leaking right now? Like, where do I need more support for what I'm meant to do? And was able to have a conversation with Elizabeth and with Tasha. And there's so much energy released from me because I'm surrendering to the fact that I don't love this like they love it. I love plugging in and out, like when you need me kind of thing, but not driving it forward. Like they have so much energy around. And it was such a beautiful conversation where they get to play in the playground that they love. And I also get to be freed of that burden that really, it doesn't light me up, the thinking about it. So that's just an example of how it can show up in our lives. And we don't even realize what's draining our energy, but it's these like little micro things that add up over time. Do you have an example, Elizabeth, of something similar?
Yeah. Well, and I also want to say, like, for the person who's needing to release control or hand over, as the person, when you offered that to me, I was like, yes, I'm so excited. Like I've been waiting, like there's a hole that has needed to be filled in my role or my energy or my desire. And you giving that to me or offering that to me was such a, like, so much joy and excitement for me. So that's like the other side of when we do ask and do and extend that out. Like it's such a gift for ourselves and the person who's receiving it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my in my life, I have a history of control.
Hello.
Yes. I'm like, I claim that I'm such like, oh, I'm such a free spirit, and I am, but I'm also like very anal about some things. And I mean, maybe like even in a small area, like 4 or 5 months ago with my husband, like things around the house that he knows that like I like done a certain way, and I like, gosh, like how something is cleaned or how the laundry is done or clothes that don't go in and out, like very, very particular. And he would like start asking me like, oh, how do I do this? And I just looked at him and would say like, I trust you. I trust that you can do it. And that may seem small, but I like realized in that moment, I was like, I don't like being asked all the questions like, how do I do this? How do I do that? And like, what do I do after this? I want to, and then in my head, I'm thinking like, aren't you an adult? Like, don't you know how to do this? And it's very true. He's this very smart man, and we all are extremely intelligent beings, but when we put that control in our reality, everybody around us is like tiptoeing.
Mhm.
And so I chose, and I started saying, I noticed where it was showing up with other people asking me things. And you know what, it's actually making me think about when I got married, this is like what it was. Like I was like in
Mm.
control mode
Yes.
and like control the day before, like had a huge shift around my wedding where venues changed. And so I got really like in the weeds.
Mm.
And then like maybe a week before I just started looking at people and saying like, I trust you.
Mhm.
I trust that you know what to do.
Mhm.
And they would stare at me for a moment, like, "What?"
Mm.
And I just kept saying, "I trust that you can figure it out." And they did, and they got to show up with their creativity, they got to
Mm.
add elements to a special moment in my life that I didn't even think about adding,
That's so
arranging things in a certain way, and I got to relax, and then I also got to, like, receive support, like, on
great.
something that's so stressful or can be,
Yeah.
and I got to enjoy and be in the moment more and, like, live my life and relax. So
Yes.
it's hard, like, I could've that day chosen to be like, "Ah," like, stressed and, like, "Don't do this, don't do that," and I just had to be like, "Everything will be okay,
Yes.
and if there's a question, I'm here." But I also know, like, the people I've surrounded myself with, love me, and they're good, and they're smart, and I trust them, so, like, I need to hand that trust over and let their creativity and their desire to help me shine through over my desire to bottle myself in and then eventually explode.
Mhm. Yeah. One of the things that I really hear from, like, your share is that when we release control, trust and support can naturally emerge. But I think that connects to one of the things that we were talking about the other day, which is I think there's this place where we go in our minds, which is if I release control, that means I have to compromise on my standard because no one's going to do it like I would. And I think that that's actually the opposite of what we're suggesting, that you have to, and let me rephrase this. When you are empowering someone to take over something, when you are letting someone into your world to support you, when you are extending trust, there is an element of how can you set yourself up and them up for success and stop feeding the story that no one can ever do it as well as you can. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by this. When I was delegating and really like looking at like my energy and breaking down like where can I save time, and I was looking at like house stuff, laundry, meal prep, all the things that happen, right? Because we go to work and then it's like we start our second job when we get home and do all of the house chores, and started looking at what does a house manager look like. Well, in this house manager role, it would be so easy for me to go out into the marketplace and say, okay, I want to hire this person, right? This person that can do the laundry, do all the things. And because I know how to do those things, I would expect that someone else would know how to do those things. Like it's common sense. But actually, what I did was I got so specific on exactly how I wanted everything to be done so that I could fully extend not just the trust, but the ownership of it. Because I think that's where we get caught up is that we're like, I'm going to do it all because no one does it as well as I do. And we keep that story alive, which is so disempowering and keeps you from really stepping into what your next level is. But we're missing a critical piece in the empowerment of others and empowering ourselves. We don't get clear on the specifics of exactly what we want done, we can't expect someone else to do it well or even partly well on our behalf. But as a woman, what's really interesting is I think we have a hard time allowing ourselves to want what we want, which is where the request for the help gets bound. What are your thoughts about this?
Say that last line again, because that was
Yeah.
really good.
I think as women, part of why this story is kept alive is because we are not allowing ourselves to want what we want and be so specific because we don't want it to be demanding or too much or whatever the story is. But we do not feel comfortable getting so granular on what we want and demanding that we get what we want.
That is so good. Yeah, it's yeah, we have no problem getting granular with ourselves, right? We have
Right?
no problem like
Wow. Yeah.
we can get granular with ourselves all day long. We'll like spend the extra time, beat ourselves up because it's not a certain way, and then fix
Mm,
it and redo it again. And but we won't ask somebody else to do that.
mm,
It's we feel like we're a burden and our desires are a burden when
yes.
really like every single person that's in this world, whether they've acknowledged it or not, has a gift to give.
Mhm.
And it's each person's is unique. It has their own signature. They may be similar in certain ways,
Yeah.
but one person to the next is different. And we actually are doing people a disservice when
Mhm.
we don't come to them with our granularness, if that's
Yeah.
even a word. Like, I know, Stacy, you were sharing, like, I want with my house manager, like, I want it done like this, and this, and this. There is somebody out there who loves,
Yes.
with a dying passion,
Mm.
intense, detailed organization. And
Yes.
they love doing it for other people, and it lights them up.
Yes.
And they're waiting for somebody to hire them
Mm.
to fulfill their dream and desires and their joy.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually like if you wanna help somebody else, tell them exactly how you want something done, and they're either the right person or they are the wrong person, and you will know.
Yes. Yeah.
But, we're just, like, sacrificing ourselves, like, in the fire and
Mhm.
beating ourselves up and thinking, like, nobody else can do it how we do it.
Right.
It's like, "Really? You think no," but, like, I like to talk to myself like this sometimes when I'm in, like, a place and I'm like, "Really? Nobody else can do this?
Yes.
Nobody else can fold clothes how I want them? I'm
Mhm.
the smartest person on the earth?" No. I'm amazing, but there's also, so many other amazing people who wanna step in and help, and we have the choice to decide that we're amazing and we're brilliant and we're powerful, and how we're truly powerful is not by, like, climbing to the highest mountain, standing on top of it exhausted.
Right.
It's like hiring the person who's gonna, like, get us in the helicopter and take us to the top of the mountain.
Yes. Yeah. It's so interesting how like it's it's never about what we think it's about, ever. Like it's
Mhm.
literally, you may be listening to this and relating to this feeling where it's like you feel like you're doing it all. You feel like maybe you're burnt out or you feel like you're doing things that are okay activities, but they're not the activities that light you up or you find a curiosity is sparked within you about the activities. And it's like to understand why we're doing these things is so empowering, right? It's just to understand that we're telling this story that it's all on us and it's all up to us. Because if we continue to tell that story, we don't have to trust. And if we don't have to trust, then we don't have to be disappointed. And if we don't have to be disappointed, we don't have to have that feeling that we've never maybe looked in the eyes our whole life. And this all is going on behind the scenes and keeping you stuck in a standard that doesn't serve you. Whereas on the flip side, if instead you started to look at this practically, matter of fact, black and white, and you said, I feel energized with these activities, I feel depleted with these activities, and I feel maybe in the middle with these activities. And this is an exercise that you can do, right? Of just brain dumping all the stuff that lights you up, all the stuff that drains you, and all the stuff that's sort of in between. And for you, what I would recommend is actually starting with the stuff that drains you. Because if you're listening to this and you're feeling burnt out or low energy, I can absolutely assure you that it's to do with that list. And then once you have that list, really inquire with yourself and say, am I not pursuing support because that would mean I would have to trust? Or am I not asking for support because I haven't documented what support looks like? Or maybe I haven't asked for support because I'm afraid that it will appear like I'm bougie or some prima donna or whatever kind of image trigger you might have going on. When in all actuality, the truth is to the extent you're supported, is the extent that your magic can be released and ignited and fully expressed. Period. It's very simple. The SoulCharge Liberation event is designed to do just that. It is designed to liberate you from what is keeping you stuck, to free your energy so that you can be free once and for all, so that you can be free for good, and leave with practical tips and strategies to harness the energy that you liberate through our event and go and make results immediately. The women that attend our liberation event come in for goals. They come in to learn how they can start ascending their next level, and they leave changed. They leave inspired, they leave clear, and they leave with clear next steps on what is next. And a lot of times it's unexpected. A lot of times with the liberation event, you think you're coming for one thing and you leave actually getting to the root of what's been going on all along. In just 2 hours, we clear what is in the way. We help you get clarity and how to create a path forward to elevate your life and business. So join us. You will not be sorry that you attend the liberation event, because it is the first step on your journey to free yourself, to swing for the fences on your vision, to free yourself from the binds and shackles that are keeping you stuck. It's to free yourself to create anything that you want, because that's the truth. You can create anything, and it's time to start now.
Yeah, like what gets to fill the gaps of the things that you are doing all alone, all by yourself? When those are gone, when you've enlisted the support, like what gets to happen in that gap, in that space, in that like clarity that you have
Yeah.
of like, I am done with my day and I'm going home and my home is clean and the laundry's done and I had someone prep meals for me. And maybe there's a fear of not knowing what to do with that space, or like you're saying, it's
Yeah.
like meeting an area that you have never looked in the mirror before.
Mm,
And so, it's almost like this control is also, we're using it as a protection from what we don't want to look at. And
yes.
so there's an opportunity, like a huge opportunity that gets to arrive. You get to outsource from that list what's most important to you.
Mm,
You then get to have all this space that you get to explore. Like,
yeah.
that's so exciting. Like, what projects do you want to do? What trips do you want to take? Who do you want to spend quality time with?
Mhm.
Yourself, your loved ones, friends?
Mm,
Are there things that you've always wanted to do that you haven't done that have sparked your curiosity? And then who do you become on the other side of that?
mhm.
It's like a treasure trove that it
Yeah.
gets that you have no idea about. And you get to be so much bigger. Like people will actually look at you and be like, wow, like,
Mm.
and we're not doing it for the external admiration, but people won't be able to stop looking at what you're doing because they'll admire your strength, not because you're doing everything and you're holding the world on your shoulders, but
Mm.
because you're the joy and the life emanating off of you just by being in a place of real power, which is Stacy always talks about, like being the queen
Mm.
who is just on her throne, and she knows everything to an extent that's going on, but
Mm.
she's not out there like in the grand hall and in the West Wing and
Yeah.
at the, international meeting. She's like on her lands and going places and horseback riding and doing all the things, whatever it is. But there's, when we decide to outsource where we want and give ourselves the permission that that's okay, there's
Mm.
so much life and so much of ourself that gets to come through. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking of just like another example to leave you with is like my daughter Legend turned 2 in March this year. And I had support from Jenny, our team member. And I told her what the vision was, told her what I wanted for the party. She planned everything. And I love hosting. I love having parties. I love doing all the things. And during the parties that I typically host, I'm never really present with the guests because I'm making sure they have drinks. I'm making sure that they have all the things. And with this experience with Jenny running everything for Legend's birthday party, it was an example of who I got to be at that party was totally present. Seeing Legend with the little farm animals we brought in for the petting zoo, like being there with her presents and the cake. I didn't have to worry about all the steps leading up to it. That's my preference. As you listen to this may be different for you. But the message here is that, or question I want you to contemplate from this episode is, what support do I get to put in place so that I get to be all of who I am? What support would be so supportive for me so that I get to be more of me, all of me, the version of me that is so ready to emerge and ready to be in full power? So that's the question that I'll leave you with to contemplate and to really ask yourself, what does this get to support me in? What does this get to allow me to do more of? It could be presence with your kids. It could be some thinking time in between ending your workday and starting time with family. It could be not having to think about what you're eating every 3 hours so that you can hit your fitness goals. It could be meeting with a trainer 2 times a week so that you don't have to think about the workout schedule that you have to execute. It's like we don't give enough thought and credit to how much energy is exhausted just by thinking. So, kind of subcategories of the question I'm giving you is, what support do I get to put in place so that I can be more of myself? But also, what support would free up my thinking? What support would free up brain space, life space, and make more space? And then, of course, there's always going to be a little discomfort, right? Because we're not comfortable with space. We're comfortable with back-to-back schedules. We're comfortable with all the things all at once. But this is your opportunity to contemplate, are you willing to keep alive a standard that is literally living right next door to what you say excellence is? Because that, my friend, is not the standard that you truly want to maintain. That is out of integrity. For you to say excellence is so important to you, and in the next breath, talk about how you can't relinquish control. Those are two opposites, both opposites. And so let this land, let this process, and we invite you to really take a hard look at what you're saying is so important. And is that actually maintaining a really low standard? Any final words as we wrap up this episode, Elizabeth?
No, I think I mean, I really think you nailed it on the head there. It's, it's what does your life get to look like with support?
Yes.
And is there a vision of your life that you've always dreamed about and seen that doesn't exist? And now you're realizing maybe it's because you don't have the support that you need.
Yes. So good.
Yeah.
This was amazing. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Are you loving SoulCharge? If so, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and share an episode. We want to bring powerful content to women leaders each week so that women can be unleashed to create the results that they want now. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.